Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Diana Skaya. USAID funding plays a crucial role in supporting global stability, from humanitarian aid to security assistance. But when Elon Musk attempted to cut its funding, a U.S. judge stepped in, ruling the move likely unconstitutional. The decision has major implications, not just for American foreign policy, but also for key allies like here in Poland, which relies on aid for refugee support and regional security. Now, to break down what this means for Poland, Europe, and beyond, I'm joined by Marcin Bużański at the Center for Diplomacy and Negotiation, Director at Collegium Civitas. Marcin, so good to have you here this morning with us on World Talks.
Good morning.
So first and foremost, let me ask you this. How did Elon Musk actually justify his attempt to cut USAID funding? And what legal argument actually led the judge to block this decision?
Well, there's so much unconstitutionality about what Elon Musk and his team is doing that it doesn't come as a surprise that a judge would try to halt those actions, a federal judge in this case. Because if we look at the setup of the DOJ, or however you want to call it, this department, it's not a congressionally approved body, and it is trying to enforce policies which relate to congressionally established federal institutions, such as USAID. So in that sense, it came to no surprise that considering the speed of actions and the scope of actions proposed, which de facto mean shutting down a federal agency, because it's hard to label it in any other way, considering the actions that are undertaken. Then it's no surprise that the judge would come in and try to put a hold until a legal process can be established to look at the actions that the department is doing. But let's have a closer look at them. They try to cut at the moment around 80% of programs and funding and let tens of thousands of staff go. This in itself is considering federal rules a violation of the law, and this is why the judge has to halt all the immediate firing and to give access again to people fired to the email addresses, to office facilities. That is their federal obligation that the administration should have towards these people. So there's a legal case to be made here. Of course, then there's the other element of this, which is the case of why do you take USAID as the first agency with such a strong hammer? Because frankly speaking, strategically, it doesn't make sense. It's a relatively small federal agency if you look at size. The whole of the budget is around 40 billion. If you look at things like social security, like veteran affairs, these we're talking about tenfold times the budgets that are being spent. So from the sort of objective of leaning the government, this doesn't really meet the case. The case built around against USAID is purely political, in a sense that in the idea of making America great again, the concept is to move more inwards in terms of spending and not outwards. So to stop American assistance or to align it towards clear political goals. Now, these seem to be not strategic, but more ideologically driven, because what really programs are first on the chopping board, the ones looking at human rights, the ones looking at democracy support, the ones looking at equality of rights for the LGBT community, women rights support, etc. These are all programs which have been cut in the first place. So basically, cutting off around some of the values that America has been standing for decades. But here's the final thing, and this is the most, I think, worrisome, which consists about the impact that this is having worldwide. There was no thought going into the hundreds of millions of lives around the world that will get immediately impacting by limiting the support, because cutting off the 2-3 billion from food aid and humanitarian assistance might seem like one cutting of a short stripe of a pen for the Dodge people, but de facto it means the people go starving. It means that in developing countries, hundreds, thousands of people lose jobs that provided their daily livelihoods. We're talking about a massive global turmoil that's happening in so many lives in so many countries. You mentioned Ukraine. Another example, energy infrastructure support, support for reconstruction of local institutions, local government, support for schooling for thousands of kids. All of this stops, and the people employed to do it. Now, this is clearly a very worrisome trend, because not only it's hurtful for those people first and foremost, but also strategically for America, for the US, it is hurting their basic interests. So one has to question the whole approach. It seems that either it wasn't thought through at all, or it is a very deliberate action, and then one has to ask the question, well, where is this really coming from? Because it hurts US interests.
Marcin, let me ask you this. What about some examples or maybe some details you could give me about how these funding cuts actually impacted Poland? And I mean, I know you went through it, but I mean also what immediate impact did the funding cuts have on U.S. relations with allies specifically that have been relying on this U.S. aid? I mean, is that going to shift their relationship with the U.S.?
It's going to hurt it, without doubt. And we're seeing this happening already. Think about it this way. We're talking about thousands of people fired from the US administrative structure, which created the soft power of the US, which built the diplomatic relations sort of most directly with civil society actors, with private sector actors all around the world. These people are without jobs. They're on the market. They're all now, looking at other actors, maybe EU, but also Russia, but also China, who are scooping them up and trying to come in with their money to fill in the gap. This is, a strategic mistake. So it's a massive impact. Then we have, something like cooperation with allies on programs here, like what you asked about Poland. The big part of the educational support for Polish schools in Ukraine comes from funding from USAID programs. It has to be replaced. So there is, of course, a question of are we still working together on those fundamental programs? So there's a lot of Polish NGOs. I have a lot of friends who are now trying to reposition their operations, because suddenly from day to day, their funding gets cut in 70%. And mind you, a lot of those grants are only approved after a certain claim is made for expenses you've made. So you're dealing with thousands of NGOs across Europe, many in Poland, who have already spent money and now cannot get their claims back because their whole programming is completely cut.
Marcin, let me ask you this: Do you think a weakened U.S. aid could actually strengthen Russia?
I have no doubt it's strengthening Russia, it's strengthening China, it's strengthening all of the actors who are going around the world just with cash to give out and try to sort of buy out their access. USAID has been a soft access arm to places around the world to build relations from this was why it was created in the first place in the times of Kennedy. So we're talking about dismantling of an organization that's established for 60 years. And also now it's going to be called, I just saw the reorganization idea, and there's going to be a Bureau for Humanitarian Affairs Support under the State Department. So the agency independently as a functioning one has been de facto now dismantled. So this is definitely weakening United States interests abroad, without any doubt.
Thank you so much, Marcin Bużański, Center for Diplomacy and Negotiation Director at Collegium Civitas, for being with us here this morning for your insight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching and stay tuned on TVP World for more news, features, and expert insights.